All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a 30-year-old supercar that literally rewrote the rulebook for American performance. We are, of course, talking about the legendary C4 Corvette ZR1, a machine so audacious in its engineering that its history reads like an automotive thriller.
Picture this. You're out on a desolate country road just outside of Reykjavik, Iceland. You drop the clutch on your 1990 ZR1, look down, and you've just logged a blistering 3.98 second 0 to 60 time. As one owner shared with the Corvette community, that is not bad at all for a car that rolled out of the factory over 3 decades ago. It's absolutely wild.
So it begs the question, right? How on earth does a vintage machine from 1990 still hold its own against today's hyper-advanced computer-managed sports cars? Well, to understand its enduring power, we have to look at the unprecedented collaboration that brought it to life. Flashback to 1990. Chevy knew they needed a real game-changer to take on the world's elite supercars. So, they teamed up with Lotus Engineering over in the UK to build this absolute masterpiece, the all-aluminum, dual-overhead cam, 32-valve LT5 V8. It was actually so specialized and complex that Chevy couldn't even build it on their standard assembly lines. They literally had to outsource the assembly to Mercury Marine down in Oklahoma.
And the specs show a night and day difference. While the standard 1990 Corvette had a solid, traditional OHV V8 pushing 245 horsepower, the ZR1 boasted a massive 130 horsepower jump, delivering 375 horsepower. That sheer leap in power is exactly what earned it the legendary nickname King of the Hill.
But hey, all that power doesn't mean a thing if you can't put it to the pavement, right? To handle the LT5's fury, the ZR1 got a completely unique rear body design. Chevy widened the rear fascia, giving it a convex tail and signature square taillights specifically designed to swallow up massive, road-gripping 315mm rear tires. If you saw those wide, square taillights pulling away from you, you knew for sure you just got beaten by a ZR1.
Section 1. The 1990 Performance Mystery. Now, the performance timeline of this car actually has a fascinating, kind of unexpected twist to it.
This sparks a massive debate among vintage owners. See, in 1993, Chevy bumped the ZR1's power up to 405 horsepower. You'd naturally assume those later models were faster. Well, actually, scratch that. Forum lore and real track times suggest the lighter 375 horsepower 1990 models were often quicker. Why? Because those 1990 models didn't have the heavy ASR traction control system added later, which was notorious for interfering with the throttle body. Plus, there's a strong, persistent rumor that those early 1990 engines got meticulous, special factory attention paid to their cam timing.
So less really can be more. We see this backed up by modern owners who are actively tracking these cars today. On the Corvette forums, drivers are logging incredibly fast, unmodified quarter-mile drag times that totally challenge the later iterations. Just listen to this owner's quote. "My 90 ran a best of 12.71 at 113 miles per hour, 100% stock." He firmly concludes that the 90s are just lighter and quicker.
Section 2. Wrenching for speed. Because keeping a highly complex 30-year-old exotic engine running at its absolute peak? Yeah, it's not exactly a walk in the park. Keeping the King of the Hill fast requires some very specific owner know-how. Get this, one of the craziest issues is finding out that the secondary actuators, the parts that open up the engine's extra valves for full power, were sometimes installed backwards by the factory at Mercury Marine. Owners literally have to pull off the intake plenum to fix this. They're also meticulously chasing down vacuum leaks, and they absolutely swear by Italian tune-ups, which basically means aggressively cycling the car at high RPMs so the engine actually learns to open up properly without getting sticky.
And speaking of opening up, owners frequently misunderstand the famous valet key on the center console. It is not just a magic go fast button. To get those secondary intake valves to actually open and unleash the engine's true potential, you've got to follow a specific sequence. Set the key to full power, apply a really heavy foot to the throttle, and bring those RPMs north of 3,000. Only then does the computer give you the whole shebang.
Moving on to Section 3, the collector's crown. Let's look at why this specific vehicle commands such immense respect in today's collector market.
The original 1990 MSRP for the ZR1 was nearly $59,000. If you adjust that for inflation, you're looking at roughly $150,000 today. That is a massive premium that firmly established the ZR1 as an elite, exclusive supercar from day one, rubbing shoulders in price and performance with the big European exotics.
And today, it's that rarity that really drives its immense collector appeal. Chevy pumped out over 3,000 units during that initial wave of massive hype in 1990, but production quickly plummeted after that. By the final model year in 1995, they built a mere 448 units. That kind of scarcity, combined with the groundbreaking tech, makes them incredibly sought after now.
For the hardcore collectors, it really all comes down to the paint. Finding one of these ultra-rare colors is basically the holy grail of Corvette hunting. Imagine tracking down one of the literally 4 ruby red metallic models built in 1994 or one of the 9 bright aqua metallic ones from 1995. At that point, these aren't just cars anymore. They are true historic artifacts of 90s performance.
Section 4. Preserving the legacy. Finally, let's explore why maintaining these vehicles and their history is so vital for future generations. Institutions like the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, serve as the living epicenter for this community. Through their interactive exhibits and preservation efforts, they make sure the audacious engineering breakthroughs of the ZR1 aren't just lost to time. It's all about taking that physical history and using it to spark inspiration in the next generation of engineers and gearheads. By preserving this history, we can actually draw a direct, unbroken line of innovation, from the C4's groundbreaking DOHC V8 in 1990 right up to the mind-bending twin-turbo C8 ZR1 of today. The 1990 ZR1 laid the foundation, proving without a doubt that an American sports car could feature exotic technology and absolutely dominate the world stage.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. As we shift further into an era of digital driver aids, hybrid powertrains, and computer-managed driving experiences, will the hypercars of today inspire the same tactile, hands-on devotion 3 decades from now? Will owners still be out in their garages hunting down vacuum leaks and debating mechanical cam timing? Honestly, it makes you appreciate the raw mechanical magic of the
All right, let's jump right into this explainer and finally settle those garage debates by breaking down what actually drives the legendary C4 ZR1's track and street performance. Look, if you spend any time at all on Corvette forums, you've definitely seen some wild acceleration claims that just completely blow away the official factory numbers. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how and why that happens.
We've got a pretty technical breakdown ahead of us. We'll start with the King of the Hills baseline numbers, look into chasing the perfect launch, dissect the LT5's power band and gearing, talk about unlocking the secondary intake, and finally, uncover exactly why the early models were faster. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The King of the Hill, establishing the legend. Before we can really dig into the forum mythology, we need to ground ourselves in the engineering reality of Chevy's flagship supercar. When the ZR1 dropped in 1990, it didn't just go fast, it entirely rewrote the rulebook on what an American sports car could actually do. Just take a look at these baseline factory specs across the production run. This really highlights how that Lotus-designed dual overhead cam LT5 engine transformed the C4. Built out in Oklahoma by Mercury Marine, this 32-valve all-aluminum V8 originally cranked out 375 horsepower, before bumping up to 405 later on. The official 0 to 60 times sat right around the low to mid 4-second mark, with quarter-mile times dropping down to about 12.6 seconds for the later models. But as we're going to see in a minute, those numbers were actually incredibly conservative. And just to prove this wasn't some fragile garage queen, a near-stock ZR1 averaged this absolutely insane speed, 175.885 miles per hour over a 24-hour endurance run out in Fort Stockton, Texas. Think about that for a second. The drivers literally sat at 5,500 RPM in 5th gear with the pedal mashed to the floor for a whole day. It proved the ZR1 wasn't just a drag strip toy, it was a total endurance monster. Moving on to Section 2, Chasing the Perfect Launch, Street versus Magazine. Let's step out of the pristine factory testing grounds and into the real world, because this is where owner techniques, modern tire compounds, and a few choice upgrades change absolutely everything about how this car accelerates. Listen to this quote. "I hit 60 in 3.98 seconds. I think I must have hit 60 in first gear." That claim from a veteran enthusiast perfectly captures the crazy real-world numbers getting tossed around in the ZR1 community. One user out testing their 1990 ZR1 on an empty road in Iceland actually logged a staggering 3.98 seconds 0 to 60 using a GPS tracking app. And man, that sparked a massive technical debate among veteran owners about what this chassis is truly capable of.
So, you really got to ask yourself, is a sub-4-second 0 to 60 actually possible in a 30-year-old car? Are these form times just pure mythology and GPS rollout errors, or are skilled drivers actually wrecking those old magazine benchmarks? Well, the veteran racers all pretty much agree 0 to 60 is entirely driver and launch focused. With the absolute right technique, those old magazine times can absolutely be shattered. But here's the catch. Hitting these blistering times requires a very specific formula. You have to dump the clutch perfectly, right around 3,500 RPM. On top of that, ditching those original hard-as-rock factory Goodyear Gatorbacks for modern sticky drag radials makes a night and day difference for traction. Tire compound tech has just come so far in 30 years. Add in a few popular mods, we're talking gutted catalytic converters, an open exhaust, maybe deleting the secondary intake system, and throwing in a custom Haybeck chip to tune the engine control module, and suddenly, you've got a recipe for sub-4-second launches.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the LT5 power band and gearing, hitting 60 in first gear. We really need to look at how the ZR1 actually puts that power to the pavement, because this engine behaves totally differently than your typical American pushrod V8. And honestly, this right here is the secret to that sub-4-second run.
See, unlike standard pushrod engines that hand you instant low-end grunt the second you touch the throttle, the 32-valve LT5 makes you wait just a split second before it violently wakes up. Owners always note that below 3,500 RPM, it's really nothing to write home about. But once you cross that threshold, it pulls like an absolute freight train, with zero drop-off in power all the way to its astronomical red line.
And that red line? It's right up there at 7,200 RPM. Here is the trick. If you want to hit 60 miles per hour without losing precious fractions of a second to a gear shift, you literally have to wind it all the way out in first gear. With the stock 3.45 gear ratio and standard 315 width rear tires, the math shows you'll hit exactly 60 miles per hour right around 7,250 RPM. Now, if you swap to a 4.10 rear gear to try and grab more low-end torque, you're going to be forced to shift to second before hitting 60, which, ironically, will actually hurt your 0 to 60 time.
All right, Section 4, unlocking the secondary intake, the misunderstood valet key. We're officially in the deep technical weeds now, looking at the ZR1's infamous valet key and its incredibly complex dual intake system. This is where so many owners get tripped up about the power they're actually putting to the ground.
So you've got this physical key switch right on the console. In normal mode, the engine runs on just 8 primary injectors, making about 210 horsepower. Turn the key and you enable full power mode. That allows access to the 16 secondary injectors, the secondary intake valves, and an extra fuel pump to unleash the full 375 or 405 horsepower. But here's the kicker. A lot of owners mistakenly believe that simply turning that key instantly hands you maximum power all the time. Nope. In reality, the engine control module is making the final call.
Because if you're just casually cruising around town, you're realistically only using 210 horsepower. Why? Because all of these strict parameters must be met for those secondary valves to snap open. The engine coolant has to be over 170 degrees, no stored fault codes, the complex vacuum system has to be flawless, and crucially, your throttle needs to be over 75% open, with RPMs typically climbing toward that 3,000 to 5,000 mark. It's a highly intelligent, demand-based system.
Now, if you want to make sure your secondary intake actuators are actually functioning smoothly and stave off carbon buildup, veteran tuner Mark Hybeck recommends this exact sequence. While you're cruising steadily on the highway in a high gear, quickly dip the throttle past that 75% trigger point to wake up the secondaries. Once they open, as long as you don't let the throttle drop below 4.7%, they'll stay open, splitting the fuel 50-50 between the injectors. It's an awesome trick to verify your system is actually delivering the full supercar experience.
Let's hit our final segment, Section 5. Why early models were faster, solving the mystery. We're going to settle a massive community debate regarding the production timeline of the King of the Hill. See, on paper, the 93 to 95 models had 405 horsepower, while the 90 to 92 models only had 375. Yet, out on the street and on the track, the early 1990 cars consistently ran faster quarter-mile times. So what gives?
Well, here's the reality behind those numbers. First off, those early magazine tests pulling 12.8 seconds at 113 miles per hour, a lot of those were using ringer press cars. General Motors allegedly gave the very early 1990 engines a little special attention during the build process, perfectly optimizing the cam timing to ensure this super expensive LT5 project looked stellar in the press.
On top of that, the later models actually gained weight when they added the ASR traction control system. Plus, the LT5 is notorious for pulling ignition timing when the weather gets hot, so a hot summer day can drastically slow any of these cars down.
But here is, without a doubt, the wildest reason for the performance discrepancy. Imagine dropping serious cash on a 405 horsepower supercar, only to realize years later that it physically will not rev past 6,000 RPM. Multiple owners discovered that during assembly at Mercury Marine, some workers accidentally installed the secondary intake actuators completely backwards on the later build models. This meant the secondary butterflies simply couldn't open, completely strangling the engine of air and fuel. Once owners yanked the plenum off and flipped them around, boom, the car suddenly performed exactly as it should. Crazy, right?
It's exactly this kind of raw, uncompromised history, plus those optimized early engines, that makes the original 1990 models such a massive deal for collectors right now. They were lighter, completely free of heavy traction control systems, and in a lot of cases, just physically quicker than the higher horsepower cars that came after them. So I'll leave you with this to chew on the next time you spot a ZR1 out in the wild. If you're just casually cruising around town, are you really driving a 405 horsepower beast, or just a 210 horsepower legend waiting for its moment? True performance isn't just about what's sitting under the hood, or what some magazine cover claimed 30 years ago. It's about whether the vacuum lines are tight, the tires are sticky, and whether the driver has the knowledge and the nerve to push it way past 3,500 RPM to truly unlock the king of the hill. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep